I want you to put yourself in the mind of Yu Suzuki in 1985, way before his divisive magnum opus. After releasing Super Hang-On and Space Harrier in the arcades, he had a new task from Sega. They wanted a game that would push them to dethrone Namco in the arcades. The most popular games around that time were racing games, and so Sega tasked him with making one. Many ideas came to mind, like making a game inspired by Cannonball Run, but since he couldn't afford a trip to America, he took a scenic trip to Europe. During his time in Germany, he drove the Romantic Road, a 286-mile tour from Würzburg to Füssen. After touring the local towns and feeling the passing breeze on his face, he went back to Japan and came up with a wonderful idea to create a driving game that captured the feeling of the journey he just took. And so, in 1986, Outrun was born. Outrun was an arcade hit and helped to put Sega as a top arcade competitor. It was their best-selling unit of the 1980s and one of the key defining arcade games of that era. During that time, arcades weren't the friendliest of places, but it marked the turning point in making them the fun and exciting places they are today. As you know, Sega continued to make key defining games in the arcade as well. As the 80s turned into the 90s, arcade owners were curious. If Outrun is so good, why isn't there an Outrun 2? Well, Sega did try a few times. There was Turbo Outrun, Outrun Europa, and Outrunners. And while these are fine successors, except Europa, that game sucks, to many arcade goers, it didn't quite scratch the itch to call it the true Outrun 2. Most of these follow-ups felt outdated by the time they came out because of the advancements of 3D graphics. Once Sega moved out of the console business and turned into a third-party company, they struck an exclusivity deal with Microsoft to base their next arcade board on their hardware and to produce games for their upcoming console, the Xbox. And in 2003, one of these games would be one of the greatest sequels ever made. Outrun 2 is a video game developed by Sega's AM2 division and produced by Yu Suzuki. Released in the arcades in 2003, 17 years after the original Outrun, it is a true definitive sequel to Outrun as it recreates the relaxing and exciting feel of the original game while modernizing it to have a much smoother and enjoyable experience. The premise of Outrun is simple. You drive across the country with your girlfriend in your Ferrari at high speeds, avoiding traffic, and carve your own path by reaching one of 5 goals. You make your decision at the end of each path by taking a turn. The left turn takes you to an easier route, while the right turn takes you to harder routes. You're on a countdown and you get more time as you arrive at a new course. Take too long and you'll run out of time and embarrass yourself in front of your girlfriend. Simple enough, right? While it's simplistic in nature and each session lasts around 5 minutes, the way Outrun 2 nails those 5 minutes is true arcade perfection. New mechanics have been added like the drift, which is helpful for tight turns. This drift is key to mastering Outrun 2. Playing on automatic can be easier, but it is a trap for newer players. Drifting can be done, but it's a lot more rigid with less control. You turn, brake, and then accelerate to go into an auto drift. This is helpful in some turns, but can lead to your downfall if you rely on it too much. A manual drift can only be done when you play manual. You turn, then shift down a gear to activate it. From there, you can counter steer to see how hard or soft your drift is, and without losing too much speed by braking. Even more mechanics were added to its updated version, Outrun 2 SP. There's the slipstream mechanic where you tailgate off another vehicle, you will gain speed that will make you much faster than your maximum speed. It's a risk-reward system that's the perfect addition to Outrun. But here's the thing. These are the only 2 things that have been added, and it's a game changer. They made the core gameplay of Outrun a little bit easier, but the focus is on time and skill. Every slight movement and decision matters when you're playing Outrun. It's easy to pick up and play, but harder to master. Most players can do the easy route in less than 5 minutes, but the harder routes have very confusing and tough turns that may trip you up. Your drift game needs to be on point and your speed constant to catch up to rivals or pass other cars. The way you pass cars contributes to your overall score. If you pass them right after slipstreaming, you'll get double points. If you bump into that car, half points, and a full-on collision results in no points. There's also rivals on the road as well, drivers who you are encouraged to overtake. They help keep the competition up, and you get a considerable amount of points for passing them too. Hilariously, they're also driving Ferraris just like you, and they kind of look like you as well. You can't gain points from driving off-road, so you need to also stray on the street. It's simple when you break it down, but these additions add so much to Outrun that the previous games feel alien without it. The perfect amount of mechanics for a sequel to add, and it improves on the core gameplay of Outrun. You also can't forget that there's a passenger with you. Your girlfriend in Outrun mode will become more impressed when you surpass rivals, or scold you whenever you crash into anything. If you really want to impress her, well, it's kinda simple, just go fast and don't crash. But if you want to do your best to impress her, you go into heart attack mode. It's similar to Outrun mode with the same courses, but your girlfriend will have requests while you're driving. For example, pass the cars, collect coins, drift more, and what have you. She scores you based on how well you perform a section, and your rankings on the request determines the ones you do on your next course. This is a challenging and addicting mode that encourages replays of the same stages, and I still find Clarissa's voice charming in a funny way. Time attack is all about skill and your timing, because you're racing against your own or other players' times. When I refer to every decision mattering, it shows its face here. You can see that a slight turn or early drift will make you gain or lose milliseconds off your time. Time attack is also a great way to practice your speed because there's no oncoming traffic as well. Just you and the road. And the developer goes chasing you because you want a good time so bad. What helps in all this skillful play is that the music of Outrun has the perfect vibe for every driver. Coast to Coast in particular has more than 25 tracks to choose from, which includes funky remixes of Outrun tunes, tunes from older Outrun games, and original songs. These can range from course-calming music as you travel from coast to coast, the feel of going on an adventure with your girlfriend with the wind on your face, the girl's first feeling of excitement driving with you,
It's magical, he found me. Summer breeze bringing a change of fate. He came by to ask me for a ride with him.
or hard rocking tracks that capture the speed of your Ferrari.
Can't hold me down. Can't hold me down. Can't hold me.
It's one of my favorite arcade soundtracks, and these tunes are something special when they are the original old tracks or the newer ones. At the time, these visuals were pretty incredible, and heck, the Ferraris looked better than a lot of games coming out at the time. The game is smart with its seamless loading transition to new areas at the turns for the next course. Sometimes there's an object flying by, or the visuals are lighting changes based on what part is next. Outrun 2 ran on the Sega Chihiro board, and its update, Outrun 2 SP, ran on the Sega Lindenberg board. Both of these boards were based on Xbox hardware, and so many different ports of the game would follow, all varying in quality and content. But here is a simple breakdown since there's a lot of ways to play Outrun 2. Some more accessible than others. There's base Outrun 2 on arcade and Xbox. The Xbox version of Outrun 2 was ported by Sumo Digital, and is not just a straight port. It has features exclusive to that version like the challenge mode, and 2 unlockable tracks based on Daytona USA 2 and Scud Race. It also has the original Outrun as an unlockable. Then you have Outrun 2 SP, which is an upgraded version which added the new mechanics like slipstreaming and was overall less punishing, and a new 15-stage course that is based on the United States. This version of the game was ported to PS2, PSP, Xbox, and PC as Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. And you also have a stripped down version of this called Outrun Online Arcade. Now this version is in full HD with improved visuals, but only includes the SP stages as well as less cars and music. Unfortunately, due to the licensing expiring with Ferrari, Outrun Online Arcade has been delisted from PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade. This also holds true for the PC version of Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. This is a more simple way of describing the differences between all these versions, but if you want to go more in depth, Mr. Thunderwing has a video comparing each and every single version of Outrun 2. And I mean, he goes really in depth. It's worth checking out. There's even this cool version that I would one day love to experience called Outrun 2 SP SDX, which is a machine with 4 full-size cars with 2 wheels allowing for 8-player multiplayer, and the machine actually mimics what you're doing in the game. I don't know where to experience this in the United States, but man, that would be so cool to play. Now, my personal favorite home version is Coast to Coast because of how much content it has. You get both courses from Outrun 2 and SP, as well as the Coast to Coast mode. It's a mode with a ton of missions and challenges from time attack races, drift challenges, an expanded heart attack mode, a lot of customization, new music tracks, and tons of unlockable cars, which gives you the most bang for your buck. It's getting hard to find because the console prices keep going up every day, and the PC version, like I said, has been delisted and is abandonware. Like I said, the reason why any digital version of Outrun 2 isn't sold anymore is because the license with Ferrari expired. And since the game has only Ferrari vehicles, it would be a hassle to remodel them and remove all Ferrari branding from the game. And the PC version also old and needs a few fixes to work on modern machines, in which Outrun 2 FXT comes into play. This is a mod for the PC version that adds modern resolutions, proper controller support, as well as force feedback for steering wheels. There's other mods you can install, like a course editor that allows you to mix and match between 60 courses to drive through. I just think that's really rad. When it comes to Outrun 2, many people would argue that their personal favorite is the definitive version to play. I mean, I just did. There really is no wrong answer. Some people like the harder mechanics of the original, the Scud Race and Daytona tracks are nice bonuses, or the newer mechanics in Coast to Coast with a ton of content and missions. Or some like the graphical fidelity of the arcade or HD versions. I'd argue that there is no perfect version. It's why I think Outrun 2 deserves a definitive edition with all these features intact. Like everything I just mentioned. The option to choose the mechanics of the original or SP, all the stages, upgraded visuals, the missions, soundtracks, the stage ending animations, everything. Just put it as part of an Outrun collection since Sega tends to re-release the original every second, not only in the Yakuza series, but also with the Sega Ages 3DS and Switch ports. And it would be awesome to see the other games in that collection with the multiple ports of them to see how the game looked on different machines, and Turbo Outrun and Outrunners. There's so much potential for this kind of collection. But I'm kinda getting off topic and just want my cool dream collection to happen. But if you want my recommendation of who to call for this, Digital Eclipse. Outrun 2 is a game that can only last 5 minutes, but it's such a masterpiece that playtime exceeds far past that. Whenever I have a bad day, I just love to sit back and take a quick drive with this game. Recently, it's been one of my comfort games. Sure, I can get frustrated at particular turns, but each challenging section keeps me coming back. If I just want to relax, I'll just go through a calming drive through the courses. Just speed on through without having to obey any traffic laws, no speeding tickets, just you and your girl driving in your Ferrari. Outrun is the perfect burst of arcade fun that casuals and hardcore players alike can enjoy it. I'm not sure if we'll ever see this game ported again due to the Ferrari license, but it would be a shame if it didn't. It's such a fantastic part of Sega's arcade history. Even when it first premiered at the ATEI show, and I'm just talking vanilla Outrun 2, there were no empty seats. And the fact that the game is still remembered fondly to this day shows how much of a legacy it left. All that's been happening recently is that we've been getting ports of the original game, which is still awesome, but its follow-ups are just as good, and I'd argue even better than the original, especially this one. Is there a chance for a new game in this series? Maybe. Since Yu Suzuki is back in the industry with the Shenmue series, I can see him taking a more producer role in a new Outrun title. Just imagine, a modern day Outrun with more than 30 stages, super fast driving and drifting, beautiful locales at like 8K and 120 FPS, and of course, a pretty girl by your side. I mean, that's exactly what Suzuki wanted in a potential Outrun 3. And hey, it's what I would want. But until then, I'll just keep on driving. Because Outrun 2 is an endless masterpiece.